Good morning. My name is Ala Mutu, and I'm the Vice President of Finance and Corporate Services at Surrey Place. On behalf of our CEO and Board of Directors, I'm pleased to welcome you to our organization. For over 50 years, Surrey Place has been supporting individuals, families, and caregivers of all ages dealing with developmental disabilities, autism, and visual impairments. We provide specialized clinical services through an interdisciplinary circle of care for individuals to reimagine potential, gain self-confidence, learn new skills, and find hope. We are so honored to work in close collaboration with governments and partners like Aisling Discoveries, Etobicoke Children's Centre, Adventure Place, and Carey's Place that are here today with us, and many other stakeholders to shape policy, services, and programs through research, evaluation, innovation, and the elevation of diverse perspectives. Our work would not be possible without the important partnership we have with the provincial government, and in particular, the Ministry of Children, Community, and Social Services. We thank you for continuing to engage us and our valued stakeholders in the incredibly complex work of building a children's autism service system that maximizes the developmental trajectory and immeasurable potential of children and their families dealing with autism. I have had the sincere pleasure of attending recent family and stakeholder consultations in which I experienced firsthand the depth of listening, compassion, and commitment to these children and their families that gives us all such hope for what is possible for them as we continue to work and evolve together. Please now join me in welcoming the Honourable Minister of Children, Community and Social Services, Todd Smith.
Thanks, Alan. It's great to be here with all of you and the great staff at Surrey Place today, and thank you for the tour. I know we enjoyed it and saw firsthand the great work that you're doing in our province and in our city here in Toronto. Good morning, everyone. I am pleased to address you today as the Minister of Children, Community and Social Services, and I'm also pleased to be joined by our Deputy Premier and Minister of Health, Christine Elliott, and our Minister of Education, Stephen Lecce. And I know that I can speak for Christine and Stephen and myself when I say how honored we are to work alongside one another and Premier Ford to serve the people of Ontario. Also great to see my parliamentary assistants here, Jeremy Roberts and Amy Fee, and the good work that they have been doing. Over the past month, I've been working day in and day out to build trust with the autism community here in Ontario, with families and with service providers, and with the people on the autism spectrum. My team and I have made this our #1 priority. Through the largest consultation process in the history of the Ontario Autism Program, we have listened, and I'm here today because we have learned. Our government is committed to building a needs-based Ontario Autism Program. Not just a needs-based component, a needs-based program. This clear new direction stems from expert advice that we've received from service providers and the lived experiences shared by families with autism. Since coming to office, our government has focused on this issue carefully. We've actually doubled the amount of money in the envelope from $300 to $600 million. That's $600 million of funding for families with autism. And we took an initial attempt at program redesign. On this final point, it's clear to me that we didn't get the redesign right the first time. And I'm here to tell you that we will now. I want to tell you about the direction that I've issued to my ministry and the Ontario Autism Program Advisory Panel to reset our efforts on program redesign to get families in a better place. I've expanded the Ontario Autism Panel's mandate. Moving forward, they're going to provide me with advice on a sustainable needs-based program, a program that operates within our budget of $600 million and will serve as many children as possible. I've also empowered the panel to look for opportunities to align services with the school and health systems, and it's great to be here today with my colleagues in those two ministries. Autism doesn't go away when your child goes to school or runs into other health challenges along the way. And absolutely every child living with autism is unique and has unique needs. I heard that loud and clear over the past month on my listening tour. We expect to receive the panel's recommendations at the end of this summer, and by the end of this fall, we'll share the details of our new autism strategy. While we await the panel's recommendations and undertake a program redesign, we're taking action to address the anxiety that we know that parents and families are feeling. To those families enrolled in the Ontario Autism Program as it existed before our government took office, our government is committed to ensuring there are no gaps in service between now and when the new OAP is implemented. To achieve that, we're committing to an extension of up to 6 months for children who were receiving needs-based funding under the Ontario Autism Program. To those families who were waiting to get into the Ontario Autism Program, and there were many, we're going to support you too. We're going to continue rolling out the childhood budgets that our government introduced while we take the time that we need to get the redesign right on the broader Ontario Autism Program. Families who've already received a childhood budget or a letter inviting them to apply for one will continue as planned, and more families will be invited to apply. These steps extending the Ontario Autism Program while we redesign it and providing new childhood budget support to families still waiting to get into the program is an interim solution. It's imperfect, and families are growing impatient. I know that. I've heard from them firsthand, and I can feel their anxiety. This is a necessary step towards getting this right. I want to thank the families. I want to thank the service providers and stakeholder institutions across Ontario who are working with us to get a newly redesigned Ontario Autism Program on the right track. Thank you to the panel and the members for their leadership and partnership as well, and the commitment of time that they have given to helping us get this right. I look forward to seeing their recommendations in the not-too-distant future. And to my Cabinet colleagues, including the Minister of Health, Christine Elliott, and Minister of Education, Stephen Lecce, thank you for your leadership on your files. The Ministry of Health is hard at work, strengthening oversight of behavioral clinicians and taking a look at where regulations need to be reformed. And Minister Lecce has directed the Ministry of Education, to explore what steps we can take to ensure that schools and educators are well positioned to support students on the autism spectrum as they enter the classrooms. Ladies and gentlemen, over the past few weeks, I have met so many amazing kids, and I've met many amazing families. And for every one of those amazing kids, there are amazing parents attached to them. As a father, I know that all parents want at the end of the day is what's best for their children. And you want to know that your son or daughter won't be left behind. And we won't rest. I won't rest until we get this right. Our entire government, from Premier Doug Ford to myself to Deputy Premier Elliott and Minister Lecce and our parliamentary assistants who are here with me today, won't rest until we get this right. By working together, we can build an Ontario Autism Program that gives our kids not just what they need, but what their parents deserve as well. Thank you for being here today, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Minister Smith will take questions from this microphone. We'll do one question, one follow-up.
Minister, an internal report found that your government deliberately spread misinformation on this file. There was not meaningful conversation and discussion and consultation. The wait lists were frozen. No child was taken off the wait list and got therapy for 10 months. Parents went through agony. Do you owe these families an apology?
I fully understand the anxiety, as I mentioned, that the parents have gone through over the last year. I'm committed to getting this right. We are certainly sorry for the anxiety that this has caused parents across Ontario. We are committed, though, as a group, to making sure that we get this program right. I think, Cynthia, when you look at governments across North America or even around the world, no government has ever solved this issue or got this file right. We believe that with the help of the Ontario Autism Panel, working with service providers like Surrey Place and many others across the province, that we have a number of partners that have their hearts in the right place, a government that has put the funding into the program. Increasing it from $300 to $600 million is not an insignificant commitment. We're committed to getting this right going forward and making sure there's a needs-based program for families that need it.
Can you clarify what needs-based is going to look like for families? So if a family has a child on the severe end of the spectrum that needs $60,000, $80,000 in therapy a year, are they going to get that?
I'm not in a position where I can presume what the Ontario Autism Panel is going to come up with, but I know that we have the right people at that table. We have clinicians, we have families with lived experience, we have other therapists and those who are actually living with autism at that table. So I feel very confident with the people that are at that panel right now and collaborating with service providers that we are going to get this program right at the end of the day, and it's something we'll all be able to be proud of here in Ontario. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Minister. How did you come up with this $600 million figure for the budget when it's based on need and you don't know what the need is yet?
Yeah, I know that the Premier, let me start with this. With the program that was in place under the previous government's watch, not enough kids were getting treatment. The wait lists were frozen and a lot of families were waiting an awful long time. Became very evident that $320 million or $300 million was not going to be enough to meet the demand on the system. The Premier, a while ago, made the commitment that we would double the amount of money in the program to $600 million. The advice or the instructions, I guess, that I've given the Ontario Autism Panel are $600 million is a lot of money. We want them to develop a needs-based program that's going to be sustainable, so we don't have to be back here in a year or 2 years from now, and that we're helping as many kids as we possibly can, and I'm confident that we can get there with that amount of money.
What if the panel comes back and says they need more money? Is there any flexibility there?
Yeah, I think clearly the investment that the government has made is a significant one. When you look at the fact that our government has doubled the amount of money in that envelope, I feel comfortable that, and I know the panel does too, that we feel comfortable that we have the money there to meet as many kids' needs as we possibly can meet. I've had the conversation with the panel a couple of different times, and I believe we're all headed on the right track working together.
Hello, Minister.
Hi.
The previous minister made a lot to do about the wait list. There was a lot of talk about the wait list back then. Now that you're moving to a needs-based program within parameters, will there still be a wait list at the end of the day?
Yeah, unfortunately, there will be a wait list. You know, we've actually, as I mentioned a few weeks back when I was up at CHIO, one of our service providers and regional hubs, talking about the fact that the wait list has actually grown because we're offering more services than ever under the Ontario Autism Program. You know, it's going to be up to those at the Autism Panel to determine what services are provided, how many hours of service that will be reasonable for clinicians to be diagnosing as far as, not diagnosing, but offering as far as services go for children in need. So I know that we can get to a point where we all will feel comfortable and very proud of the program.
How does this program or this new direction, how does this differ from what the Liberals had in place?
Well, first of all, there's twice as much money in the program, and we don't actually have the new plan in place yet, so it will be up to the Ontario Autism Panel and the good work that they're doing to ensure that we have a program that's going to be a good one that's sustainable, and one that reaches a lot more kids. I mean, it became very clear over the last couple of years that not enough children were getting service under the previous government. You know, the goal of the childhood budgets was to reach more kids, but clearly it became evident that that wasn't a program that was going to work for families in Ontario. So that's why we're on this new course to ensure that we get this right.
Good morning, Minister.
Morning.
A few weeks ago, you mentioned that one of your priorities for this file was transparency. In recent weeks, families have said that that's been lacking, whether it's on the taxable income issue or having the summaries of the advisory panel meetings being posted. Going forward, what new steps do you plan to take to ensure that these families are getting the transparency that you promised them?
Yeah, we plan to be very, very transparent. That's why I'm here today and talking about the program. In the last month, I've been busy hearing from service providers, hearing from affected families as well, and making sure that I understood where we needed to go as a government to get this program right once and for all. Now that we've landed at this spot today and we are moving in the right direction and leaning on the Ontario Autism Panel to do their good work and service providers to continue to instruct us on where to go, we will continue to be open. We were open about the transparency around the wait list early on, and the fact that the wait list had actually grown from 23 to 25,000 because of the extra services that were being offered, occupational therapy and speech-language pathology, respite. Some of the new programs encouraged more people to sign up for the Ontario Autism Program. At the same time, more people were getting service as well. I think under the previous government, there was just under 8,500 children that were receiving service. Now there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,500 that are receiving service. So more children on a wait list because we're offering more services, but more children in service getting care.
And for this kind of revamp of the program, do you think there is a place for technological aids or respite in the new program that you will be announcing?
And that will be up to the Ontario Autism Panel. I know those are the considerations that they're talking about when they meet every Wednesday and Thursday, or every Thursday and Friday down at the ministry office. And again, I just want to thank those folks for the time that they're spending at that table. They've given up a lot of their summer already. They'll be giving up Wednesdays and Thursdays for the remainder of the summer to try and get us to a point later this summer where we have the recommendations that we need, that we can start to move on the new Ontario Autism programs. Thank you.
Morning, Minister. I think I heard you say, a couple of us were listening, and I think I heard you admit that the wait list was frozen. Can you explain to parents why the wait list was frozen?
The wait list was growing, is what I said. The wait list had actually grown because of the number of services.
I think you said it was frozen.
Yeah. Under the previous Liberal government, the wait list had frozen.
But this government didn't freeze the wait list?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. I'm just wondering, after a year of parents crying in the hallways at Queen's Park, of parents in the gallery screaming to the former minister that they want a needs-based approach, parents in the front, yard of Queen's Park, this government seems to have bumbled this file from the beginning. What can you tell parents about the mistakes that were made previously and give them assurances that you, now in charge of this file, won't make the same mistakes again?
I think we're involving a large group of people in forming the new Ontario Autism Plan. As I've mentioned a couple of times here this morning, I think it's imperative that we talk to experts in the field, experts in the sector, those with lived experience. You know, I've been out there for the last month talking to families and hearing firsthand the type of anxiety that they're facing, just how difficult it is. And, I can't imagine the type of stress that it puts on a family having a child with autism, where you are literally on the edge of your seat or on guard 24/7, 365 days a year. It has to be extremely difficult for families. We are committed that we're going to bring forward an Ontario Autism program that is going to be the right one for families in Ontario, that we're going to get them the services that they need.
Hi, good morning, Minister. You said at the very beginning of your remarks that you spent the last few months building trust with the autism community.
Last month. I've been there for a month.
Thank you. Since June 20th, we know.
I
We know the
remember
day.
it well.
We also know the day. What happened after that? I'm just curious as to. Why did you have to build trust? Was there no trust baked in when you first took over that file?
Yeah, it was clear that we needed to hear from families. We needed to hear from experts in the field. I can only tell you that when I became the minister, it was imperative that I get out and hear firsthand from families. I heard from a handful in Bay of Quinte, and obviously we heard loud and clear on the front lawn at Queen's Park. But as a new minister, Minister of Children, Community and Social Services for the first time ever, never having this as a critic portfolio either in my 7 years as an opposition member. It was imperative for me that I have a full understanding, while at the same time, a couple of weeks back, 2 or 3 weeks back, giving the Ontario Autism Panel more leeway to go outside the previous terms of reference that they were working within, which were keeping childhood budgets at the forefront. This allowed them to then look at a needs-based program and to really have a wide open perspective at how to approach this going forward. So it was really important for us to engage as many people as possible, and we've done that.
But it seems like, I mean, your parliamentary assistants did a lot of good work, it seems like, trying to really change the course and the tone, working behind the scenes to do a lot of work. Was there a problem with your predecessor in this role? Was the tone that was being set from the top, did that lead to a breakdown in trust between the autism community and the Ontario government?
There were a lot of our colleagues who did great work on this. Roman Baber put out his report. We thank him for his report on this. Jeremy and Amy have both been tireless advocates on this file. Actually, we've probably received reports in some way or another from 40 different members of our government caucus on different steps that we could be taking. I know that the panel is considering all of those reports and as well as the feedback that we've received from roundtables, surveys, all the different public events that have happened over the last number of months. They're considering all of those options as we move forward on the new plan. So.
You didn't mention Minister MacLeod. What was your assessment of Minister MacLeod's handling of the file since you are now taking over?
You know what? I would say that she was very, very responsible for the doubling of the amount of money that currently exists in the program to get it from $300 to $600 million. Trying to put together a new program in that much smaller envelope that the Liberals were operating within, the $300 million envelope, was next to impossible. And I would have to give Minister MacLeod kudos for going to bat, along with the Premier, to doubling that amount of money to $600 million.
Minister, where did this go wrong, Minister? Somebody screwed up in the government to make this go wrong. Are you not throwing Ms. MacLeod under the bus when you read between the lines here?
No, listen, I want to look forward. I want to make sure that we get this right going forward. This is a new approach to making sure that this is a needs-based program going forward, a program that we can all be proud of. I know that we're headed in the right direction. It's great to see my colleague who is a member from Edmonton in the Federal Conservative Party, Mike Lake, who has been at my events as well over the last couple of weeks and has wanted to talk about making autism a national conversation. And I think, we're at a point where we really should be considering that. This is a complex file. It's not an easy file. It's the one thing that I learned. It's not as simple as everybody thinks it is. There's a lot of complexities to this. That's why we're taking the time to make sure we get that right. I know that families are anxious. I know there's anxiety. I know they're frustrated at the amount of time that it's taken to get to this point. But looking forward is what we're aiming to do, working as a team with the Minister of Health and the Minister of Education and our entire caucus. We are going to get this right.
Hasn't your government caused that anxiety and that frustration? And don't you owe parents of kids with autism an apology?
Well, there was anxiety before. I think everybody remembers the days in front of Queen's Park, and anxiety has been going on. The previous program wasn't the answer. We need a new program going forward. I think everybody feels, hopefully, a lot better about the direction that we're headed in now. I know we've heard that from our service providers, that they feel like there's an actual partnership here going forward to finally design a program that's going to work for as many families as possible, a sustainable program going forward so that we don't have to be back here again in a year from now, that this is going to be a program that we can look forward to being proud of for many years to come.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.